Good morning. My name is Rev Kylie Renner, and on behalf of the entire One Spiritual Center community, I want to welcome you here this morning. Thank you for bringing your love into this space together on this particularly glorious Sunday morning. So if you were here last week, you brave ones, it was quite awful. It really was. And today is quite glorious. So I celebrate the fact that things can change. Yes, you guys sounded great. It was just really not fun to be outside in that wind. But I've been reflecting on a lot of things, partially because on Friday I turned 40. Yay! So thank you for all the birthday wishes. But I've been reflecting about like how things change and how interesting it is this time of year to watch those changes, including the fact that last week I noticed right while I was standing here that there was a tulip just about to form, and this week it's beautiful, and some of you can see it. You might have to come around the rock to see it, but the fact that things can move and change so quickly if we let them, especially when we're in that right season and that right timing, and that there's something inside of us that just knows how to do that. And we don't have to resist, and we don't have to fight, and we don't have to make anything happen. And I'm just in that space this morning of hope and renewal, of spring. And I'm so grateful that you're here with us to celebrate this new season that we entered into, and to create some space inside for letting whatever needs to happen. So we're going to start with some prayer. So if you're comfortable closing your eyes, we're just going to take a moment to be present here. Maybe for the first time today, becoming conscious of your breath. That moment that says, oh yeah, I'm breathing. There's this beautiful give and take that happens without me even having to think about it. And I just recognize that beautiful give and take of the universe happening here right now. That space in which we are able to give and receive effortlessly. And I just know that in this season of renewal and change and the return of light and blossoms and green, that Spirit is moving in us with a wisdom that knows how to bring that same energy into our lives. And so I just breathe. And let it be. And so it is.
I see trees of green, red roses too, and I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright blessed day and the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, they're also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying how do you do. They're really saying I love you. I hear babies cry, and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself,
To prepare for the meditation this morning, chosen a favorite poem of mine by Mary Oliver. It's entitled The Journey. One day, you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble, and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and a road full of fallen branches and stones, but little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn. Through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world. Determined to do the only thing you could do. Determined to save the only life you could save. And so we just take that energy of stepping out on that journey, even more fully than ever before. And we allow the meditation to move us today. Thank you. So I gave myself a gift this week, which was the gift of stepping away from some of my daily commitments and getting help so that I could take some time to do some reflection and some creative thinking. Because I found myself a few weeks ago looking at Zephyr and saying, why is it we are so much more creative when we're not at home? And he looked at me and said, because when we're at home, we're working. Because we're doing all the things that we got creative about when we weren't at home. And I realized that there was a necessity to create some space for that because it's so interesting. I don't know if you've found that especially this last year with everything that has been going on, and it was feeling as if some of the creative spark had been diminished simply because there just wasn't space for anything except survival. Just keeping on one foot in front of the other. And so I've been really thinking this week and reflecting about that creative spark and that energy of spring and that energy that is this time of year, which is so interesting because as we enter into this time where things start to reemerge after the roots have been nourished all winter, that there's the necessity to look at the containers that we've created and what we're going to plant in them and what we want to emerge in our lives. And this is a perfect time of year to do that. And one of the great things I think that comes out of this time is this like internal urge to start clearing the way. Like we can sense it. And that's why we want to do spring cleaning. And this isn't about like spring cleaning of the physical space, although if you want to talk about cleaning, I'm kind of obsessed. So I could write a book about my favorite cleaning products and processes. So this is not about that kind of cleaning. It's about this other kind of cleaning, this clearing away of space, and especially the stories we've been telling, because it's really, honestly, for me, usually not even about what's really going on. It's about what I keep saying about it. And it's so interesting because I think that we're actually a lot freer and more powerful and more creative, obviously, than we think we are. And we keep telling these stories about being stuck or being limited or being broken, or that some part of our life is holding us back. And really, it's our holding on to that's more powerful than the actual fact that it is actually happening. And so as I stepped outside of my regular patterns and reflected on what space and container and movement I want to open to, there was this actually physical reminder, which is that currently I'm in the process of moving my garden, which is an interesting thing to do. I recognize, but the space in which the garden that I had last year is going to hopefully very soon become a construction zone and become another building on the property. And so therefore, the garden needs to move. And it's really interesting to look at what it takes to move the container, right? What it takes to move that growing space and to be flexible and clear that way so that what is trying to emerge can emerge. And there's just this balance, I feel like, between like this idea that we're supposed to manifest or create things and push things forward, balanced with this idea that we have to be open to receiving and having things attracted to us and right timing and all of those aspects. And it's so interesting to be in this space of equinox, right? The equal days and nights, and feeling that sense of where do we find that kind of balance? Like where do we balance this idea that we're supposed to work towards creating things while at the same time creating the space to let things happen? And there's something so interesting about finding that kind of poise between the two. The poise that says that I'm willing to do the work, that says that I'm going to make myself available to what shows up, versus allowing in this deeper sense. And so I have two stories about that. One that I wrote down, and then one I just remembered. So this is this story about a pastor who had made an investment on a large ranch real estate that he was hoping to enjoy when he retired. And so he was still in the active part of his pastorship, but he would dedicate one day of his week to go out and to this land and work on it. And it was quite a job, because what he didn't realize is that it was several acres of weeds and gopher holes and rundown buildings is what he had actually bought. And it was nothing like what he imagined it could be, but he knew it had potential, and so he stuck with it. And every week he'd go out to his ranch and crank up his tools and plow through the weeds, and he'd spend time doing the repairs, and he'd mix cement and cut lumber and replace things. And it was really, really hard work. But after several months, the place started to take shape, and he started to feel proud of knowing that his labor was really finally paying off. And so the project was completed, and he received a neighborly visit from a farmer who lived down the road. And the farmer took a look at the preacher and looked out over the revitalized property and nodded his approval and said, "Well, preacher, it looks like you and God did some work, really good work here." And the pastor wiped the sweat from his face and answered, "Well, it's interesting you should say that, Mr. Farmer, because I've got to tell you, you should have seen this place when God had it all to himself." And so here's that piece, right, about the part we play. right? The part where we have to do the work, where we're active in it. But there's this other story, and I'm going to butcher this, but I believe this is a story about Mullah Nasruddin, who was in the Sufi tradition, the trickster. And the story goes that a farmer kept coming to him, asking him how to get the garden in his property to grow the things he wanted it to grow. And every time this person planted seeds, all that would come up would be the things he didn't want and not the things he was planting. And so there would be marigolds everywhere, and he did not like marigolds. And he kept coming to Mullah Nasruddin and kept on coming to him and kept on asking, how do I do this? And the mullah kept giving advice. And then finally one day, the mullah was completely out of ideas, and his final suggestion was that this person decide and finally come to the realization that they really love marigolds. Like, that was his final advice. And that's the other part of that, right? About being passive in this, but not passive in some strange way, right? But in this way that says, if marigolds are what's showing up in my life, it is my job to find a way to love what is showing up. And so there's this poise, right? This balance between being active and thinking we know what we want to plant, and this other sense of being really available to what keeps on showing up, and recognizing that there's a wisdom to that, and there's a wisdom that allows us to be more and more available. So Emerson said, he believes that he cannot escape from his good. The things that are really for thee gravitate to thee. And there's this energy around that kind of poise that says, I believe that I cannot escape the good that is trying to find its way into my life, either by actively creating it or more openly receiving it. And there's this sense that if I believe that I cannot escape it, that there isn't this idea that it's eluding me, that there's this way that all of the things that are really for us will start to gravitate to us in a deeper way. So I'm not talking about I'm not talking about traditional ways that New Thought talks about manifestation. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like that deeper place that really allows us to become available to what's really ours. Not what our society thinks ours should be, not our ideas about ourselves, but really what is ours. And it's so interesting, right, to really reflect on that and that container that we've created, because one of the things that happens for me around all my birthdays is I start to look more closely at what my idea of that age, or my culture's idea of that my age, and what I'm supposed to be doing and what I'm supposed to be valuing, and all of that comes up so clearly, especially because almost all of it is bullshit, right? And there's this sense in which recognizing that container that I created was full of those expectations and those bullshit ideas. And there's this sense in which what if the container that I am willing to create for what's trying to renew itself in my life right now in this season is about actually nourishing what is actually for me, nourishing that which is real for me, and not any of these ideas about what it's supposed to look like. And it's so interesting to just be willing to be poised in that place where I don't really know what that looks like right now. I don't know what that looks like yet. And we don't need to, because that's the beauty of spring. We don't know what seeds are actually going to take. I don't know what's going to grow well in my new garden. I know what grew well last year where it was, but I don't know what will grow well this year. And there's a sense in which we get to be in the mystery and the openness to that when we start to ask ourselves, what kind of container do we want to create? What is it that we want to nourish inside of us so that which really is seeking to emerge on a deeper level than ever before can? And what is it that really wants to be drawn to us and in this kind of effortless way? And what is already here, right? What have we already begun to see and to recognize as being revealed? And I just know that this is such a potent time, especially it feels like as we're, cautiously emerging from this collective process called a virus. Like that there's this way in which there's this potency of what is it that we really want to create a space for, a container to grow, and what is it that will then be able to emerge. And if we could keep this poised space, right, this space where we're ready for anything. And that's what that poise feels like to me, like willing to do the work, but also willing to receive, right? Willing to and allow that to happen effortlessly, just like the spring knows exactly how effortlessly to start budding out and creating leaves and flowers. Like just there's this sense where that can happen without any of our ideas about ourselves getting in the way. And to be in that season in that way, I think can really allow for something powerful to happen right now. And so I want to say that that cleaning out process of creating space and an openness doesn't necessarily have to look how our culture says that has to look. Because our culture says often that has to look painful or difficult, and I'm really sensing that what it can really look like is just stepping out of our routine for a few hours, so that we can see more clearly where we're putting our attention, what we want to be putting our attention on, and how we can make that shift. And it really doesn't have to be difficult and painful. It can be if you want it to be. But really that process of recognizing that movement can happen and that we can be available to it doesn't have to necessarily be any more dramatic than sitting outside in a different place than you normally do, or taking a different route home, or just some simple thing that gets you out of your idea so that something else can happen. And so I'm going to invite the band to come on back up, because we're going to sing into our prayer today. And as we do that, I'm just going to invite you to think of maybe some way in which you're willing to be in that poised space, to get out of some story you're telling about something and really realize that you're available to not just whatever you're called into action around, but also whatever it is that you're called to receive around. And that poised space is available right here and now. And so we're going to sing into our prayer and let Spirit do some work.
Prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free.
And so our prayer of love today is a prayer of balance. Our prayer of love is a prayer of the freedom and poise of this moment. where we are available to give and receive effortlessly, where we recognize that Spirit knows how to move through us to create, as well as open to receive a beauty that can show up when we allow ourselves to just receive. And I just recognize the giving and receiving of Spirit present here and available in all of us, perfectly guided. And so I let go into a wisdom that is bigger, that knows exactly how to emerge renewed, changed, nourished, as we allow ourselves to create space and a container to hold whatever it is that is possible once we open ourselves to truly being available. So I just let go into that creative energy. I know that it continues to guide and shape us in seen and unseen ways, and I let that mystery unfold, recognizing that what emerges is absolutely and powerfully for our good. And I let go. And I let it be. And so it is.
Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high, heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Here's a song by Freddie Hubbard called Up Jumped Spring. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Yes, it's going to jump around, I think. That's the nature of spring, right? So thank you for being here today. Thank you for your continued love and support. If you're watching online, we miss you and we love you, and we feel your presence here with us. If you are called to make a contribution to this community, you can do so online, or there are baskets hanging from the trees. And onespiritualcenter.org is a place to find the link, so you can make a contribution that way. So thank you for all of that love and the giving and receiving that keeps happening. And I am so grateful for this gloriously beautiful day. Certainly makes it so it's easier to do this thing that we do together. So let's see. Want to let you know that as soon as more of us are vaccinated, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming of service to our community, and we'll be back at Roadrunner Food Bank and things like that. So please keep your ears out for opportunities like that as we get there, because I'll be there soon, and then we're off and running. So thank you for your patience around that as well. I just want to make sure we're keeping everyone safe. And I think that it is time to sing.
One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord, and we can feel alright. People, get ready, there's a train a-coming. Don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith with that diesel humming. Don't need no tickets, you just thank the Lord. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord.
we have one last blessing to sing to one another.
Go forth and walk in beauty, and know that we are one.
Platoon! Danger, Will Robinson, danger! Platoon! It's like the soundtrack to Lost in Space right there, man.